The 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio de Janeiro start Friday, and the security undertaking is massive, and many reports suggest the city isn't prepared for the challenge. Carlos Caicedo is here. He's a senior principal analyst at IHS based in London and has been studying these issues closely. So Carlos, what's the latest with Brazil as it relates to security? We've all heard along that, they're not prepared and they don't have their act together, but how are they doing on the eve of the games?
Well, I think the key picture or the key driver here is saturation of military deployment. They have 85,000 military units together with the police. This is twice what they deploy in London. So there are no risking the whole situation by not having proper protection for visitors. And this is the main driver, the main strategy. Obviously, criminality has increased, and Rio de Janeiro is less safe now than 2 years ago, but is basically the nearly whole militarization of the key Olympic sites and the tourist areas in Rio de Janeiro.
And your analysis suggests the total cost for the Rio Olympics is $4.1 billion compared to about $6.5 billion when the Summer Olympics were last held in London. Why the decrease?
Well, I think the economic crisis and the fiscal deficit that Brazil has had since 2015 made a difference here. And basically the message to Rio was, we are no longer in a prosperity period. The oil prices have collapsed. We have a serious deficit. You have to make cuts. And they did. They made different changes and they slowed down some developments and they canceled others. So basically they tried to implement austerity as much as possible. And that is having an implication now because they have having some last-minute glitches in some of the Olympic sites. But nonetheless, I think at the last minute of the 11th hour, they will be able to complete or at least have this operationally ready.
Well, obviously the stakes are very high. I mean, in terms of tourism, Rio is on the global stage right now. So what happens if they blow it?
Well, it would be a huge embarrassment for Rio. There is a few risks there. For example, the new metro station, which is operational since 31st of July, hasn't had a full testing. So there is a concern there that the last-minute glitches could cause a temporary suspension of the line. If that happens, it will clog the whole traffic situation in Rio. Also, there is the problem of excessive potential choke points in different places of the city. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, in terms of the economic fallout, do you think we could see an Olympic bump from this, that maybe the Olympics sort of brings Brazil out of its slump?
Well, not necessarily. I think when you look at what it means in GDP figures, is less than 1% of GDP what the Olympics will bring to the table. But nonetheless, there is some benefit from Rio de Janeiro. For example, hotel capacity in Rio doubled in comparison to 4 years ago, and this is good for tourism. This has generated some jobs. Secondly, there is a new infrastructure development, a new metro line,
right,
a new railway system. This, in a way, it will help, but will not bring the country out of recession for sure.
All right, Carlos Caicedo from IHS in London. We'll certainly be following this. Carlos, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
I'm Scott Gamm, and you're watching The Street.